I have one short poem I'm going to start with called Happy Effing New Year. The revolution is being televised as I crush a can of Beck's, imagining what this year will bring, with all its promise of crawling out of hell to vaccinated freedom. And now I'm watching men destroy the Capitol, gulping down swigs of beer to flush away the sins that were my father's fathers. The patriot in me vexed by what I'm witnessing on this, our sixth day in. The MAGA minions rioting, the masses in a frenzy because their president would not admit defeat, because a demagogue mistook democracy for a porn star spreading evil, submissively unclean. The same flags they were waving to broadcast their allegiance to American ideals, long poles of US steel, smash teeth and windows out, bash ribs in, stomachs, spleens, are murdering police. No coming back from this. Those who have won the day take selfies of their treason, piss on the Senate floors, feet up on desks, content. Some taking trophies home, door signs and podiums, Proud Boys and 3%ers, QAnon theorists, vets. They are obeying orders and will, when this day is done, admit to no wrongdoing, seek presidential pardons. America the beautiful, America the compromised. Yours is a selfish land of sparkling immunity. So that was that. I'm sure everybody has put pen to paper on recent events and stuff. But speaking of recent events, so my book, The Rise of the COVFEFE, you can get this on Amazon. I'll put the link up. It is a satire. Basically, the COVFEFE are the government or the operatives behind the government that basically control everything. One of the main characters is Trump, of course, but he's not really in control. In the book, he goes by Biff. The narrator, Biff, if you've seen Back to the Future Part 2, where Biff runs the casino, so I kind of ran with that. But he's really a minor player in this. The book itself is really about these current times and a lot of the stuff that's been happening, and just basically my take on it. It's just it's just my take on stuff basically. I just feel that we've gotten far away from conversation. There's not much communication these days that doesn't end in big capital letters or an exclamation point online, and most of this is done online, and especially in these times we can't even get together to speak with each other. So anyway, so the narrator is somebody in the COVFEFE, and this is actually, I'm going to read a segment from the beginning of the book, actually the very beginning of the book. Sweet. Got to drink something before I do this. Now, who's the stable geniuses in power, whose empire is striking back with zero chill, like Vader was, until that fateful hour when Luke's huge man-crush made his dark side ill with fatherly affection, and the coil of tossing Sidious over the throne room railing seemed like a great idea that kept prevailing. When Darth did something none of you should do and took his mask off, 2 feet from his son, not 6 feet back where Fauci'd steady you to keep you snowflakes safe till COVID's gone, but 2 feet when he channeled Anakin and smiled before the Death Star blew to pieces, and seeing the light he found his Jedi Jesus. Whose team of goats like Belichick and Brady deflates all challengers with its brand of evil, has sent more chills down spines than winter lately, destroyed more lives than crack pipes and the devil. From pole to pole, whose ultra-serious hustle could rival Rodman's tattooed pedigree, and how it shapes the globe with currency. More stealth in the dark web with our cold movements, so unseen seen, invisible, familiar. Like suntan roofers doing home improvements under the stars, the shadows you can't filter, the gods who lurk in clouds. Slick as a riddler and giving so few clues to our hushed covenant, Masonic loyalist lords who run the government. The pyramid symbols on your strip club ones, the cops that gun you down predictably, the rap sheets on your newly murdered sons, flashing across a screen so wickedly, The news teams playing sides so viciously whenever rioters show up at your protest. Those Black Lives thugs, Antifa and their conquests. The oil spills swirling in your favorite ocean, whose shorelines swathed with gasoline and trash. Tycoons who put the global burn in motion, paid for Earth's plundering with cold hard cash. That deafening crack you hear with every lash of cyber rage we give the poor man's shoulders. Brothers in blood, young suits and corporate elders. The toy drones buzzing at your windowsills. The houseflies circling your dinner plates. Tracking your every move with camera pills and medicines that microchip your face. In iPads, cell phones, in your traffic lights. The New World Order is as old and shameless as Carter Phillips' sword, remaining nameless. We're at the breakfast table when you're eating, listening in on your destructive talk. What you would do if your fat ass was leading the country with your condescending sulk. Coughing out Cheerios and spitting milk with every crass opinion you're directing at the same puppets that you keep electing to be the face of our unyielding fury, the poster boys for death and devastation, who've promised to restore the former glory America knew, before it was a nation of whimpering fools who run from conversation, but stay up late to troll a tedious stranger with links to facts that point to coming danger. The facts that we drew up in drunken rages, rewriting histories we saw fit, to prove our point that nothing works as good as a civil war to keep the country split. Unusually successful at that shit, we have a knack for turning men against each other under flags that they've defensed. See Shaq and Kobe, Brutus, Julius Caesar, Biggie and Tupac, Ephialtes, Leonidas, Benedict Arnold, that delicious traitor who turned so fast his neck bones got arthritis. Deception's been our lifeblood, and has led us to these inglorious times of reckless terror, where men take risks to prove their side is better. The right has left all reason for dissension. The left's all right, but still they right no wrongs. And so we have a shit show of pretension that no one's left, so rightly none belongs. How grand for us, who've all been penning songs to do away with that most rancid anthem Scott Key wrote when the rockets nearly slammed him. Which begs the question, what do we all do with so much time on our elitist hands? Well, when COVFEFE isn't watching you, we're dropping mother bombs in peace-starved lands. We're breaking bread with some of our best friends. Last week, we had a night out with the Russians. Great cover band. King John was on percussions. That night was fucking nuts. After the band played a sweet version of Back in the USSR, Putin got up, though he could barely stand, and started singing songs about a czar who'd ruled for 30 years. But every slur that made its way into the almost sensible, hit way too close to home, was reprehensible. Pictures of Smirnoff went around the bar as fast as you could say Baryshnikov, but it was clear, though some would say the roar that came when Putin finished was all love, that the vibe that night was just a little off and forced to some degree. So we've made plans to do it all again at Kim Jong-un's. For this year's 4th, we'll stage a reenactment of Washington's famed trek across the pond, to recognize his glorious entrapment of Redcoat airports, low on fuel, outgunned. Back then, there was no place for him to land his fleet of jets, so when he saw the British, he rammed their ramparts like a horse finish. George ransacked London, stormed through Normandy, and battle-rapped a Macklemore from Spain. With just one leg, hopped down to Italy, and fed his troops cold sketties from a can, which gave them life, before they hit Japan with everything they had at Hiroshima, then Ubered home through Europe back to FEMA. Then at the Battle of COVFEFE Hill, airsick and ailing with their Space Force grounded, George and his men encountered friction still from alien troops until the trumpet sounded and Brian Williams charged in with the wounded who perished at 51 in Kitty Hawk. So many casualties, those prawns would gawk in disbelief as ghostly soldiers met them with heavenly hellfire at the dawn's first light. It took a single horn to resurrect them from years of sleep, 2 wars to make things right. As a cavalry from World News Tonight, made up of ragtag writer journeymen and camera crews that never fired a weapon, charged up the hill with 60 ghosts at most, and rolled the garrison of Martians there. Their fort was sacked in minutes, but the cost was 12 Sat Adams kegs and one light beer, which no one missed. It wasn't even fair. Those pink-clawed lizards and some traitorous Brits who brewed bad ale were rightly blown to bits and slaughtered like the migrant dogs they were, as it was written in the prophecy. A false-toothed general taking to the air in 1775 to secure victory will make America great as it can be and send the green ones home, which to this day is why we celebrate St. Patrick's Day. Thank you. Anyway, I'll put that link up. And one more visual. There it is, right there. The Rise of the COVFEFE. It's backwards on the screen, on my screen. That's all I got for tonight.
Okay, great. So Larry, first of all, I want to say thank you again for inviting me to read. I mean, I've said it before and I mean it. When I come and read for Moonstone, it's kind of like coming home and reading. It's great. So thank you so much. It was great sharing the metaphorical stage again with James, my friend and pressmate. So awesome job, James. Great stuff. And I'm also honored to meet Mbarek, and I'm looking forward to hearing your work later on this evening. So this is my book, Flashes of Light from the Deep, and it taps into a lot of different themes and topics, deals with everything from social justice, racism, class, inequality, identity. But I think the big thing that I tried to explore in it was the paradox that we all live in living in a world that is very much political, social. We are social animals, and so we have to deal with social problems together. We try to make our world better. However, at the same time, we have to deal with very individual things like putting food on the table, illness, trying to understand who we are and how we fit into the world. And so the book kind of balances those two. And most of the poems that I'm going to read tonight are from that collection. So I hope you like them. And without further ado, here they are. Active voice is the voice of doing, unless it is from lips bound and gagged. I, trained to observe, hide behind screens as I watch the world pass. I know it's not something that you want to hear. All we have in common is we all disappear. Passive voice is a myth. We sit in the coffee house all day. The warm glow eases our minds as we gaze into the January snow. And your cousin's running drugs for La Cosa Nostra, and my uncle's busy filling cans with nails. Lauren's getting letters from the Sandinistas. We're dodging badges and posting bails. And the girl at the counter with the DSA tattoo says that the day is gonna come, but we won't know when. And Natty's got a bike shop down on 12th and Tasker. She's selling AKs out the basement door. And the speakers play Salad Days. And I've never heard Minor threaten a Starbucks, have you? But on the night Joe Strummer died, we drank beers and listened to Straight to Hell with the lights off. And Ryan's gussied up like Marla Singer with his three-legged dog and a pocket of Coke. Mikey's in the cold banging on drums for strangers, looking for dollars at the end of a rope. And my coffee is cold, and the wind rattles the glass. And I want to leave, but you say that you are not ready. That we're not ready, so we stay. And the night swirls in on the weather like bad voodoo and the evil eye, the drowned one, the Baba Yaga, the Baba Duke. And in the darkness, the kids rise up and take the world that was theirs. That was always theirs. And all we do is watch. The bards I've known,
The bards I've known wear white t-shirts and smoke cigarettes in a pool hall down on Oregon Avenue. They live like kings at night and panhandle in the morning. The bards I've known don't say grace before meals. The only grace they've known dances at the Moulin Rouge, sleeping with beggars for pennies. The bards I've known are short-haired and non-binary. Standing on a street corner in Westchester, they shout their protests to the indifferent traffic. The bards I've known live in apartments with mattresses on floors. Their poetry is scrawled on the walls of bathrooms and in the margins of newspapers no one reads. Tomorrow, they won't remember the words they wrote. The bards I've known tell tales of painted women luring boys into the dark, of women painted and forgotten, their greatest legacy being in the right place at the right time. Lautrec, you madman, look what you've done. The bards I've known believe in beauty, but mistrust it when they see it. Derelict and rejected, they sell junk out of the back of their vans. The bards I've known are so broken that their songs sound like prayers, and their prayers like confessions. The bards I've known can't dance. They've only come in for a drink, and after they're done, they'll be on their way. So this poem, it's funny, when you put together a collection of poems, there's some poems that sit around for a while. You've kind of had them in your consciousness for a while. And so they're poems that you're used to looking at, but people who encounter them might not be. And this poem actually is one of those. It was written a couple years ago. I first wrote it, the first version of it in 2018. But given recent events, I really feel like this has an added relevance. Like it had relevance then, but it really has relevance now. And it's a poem entitled, "Upon Reading the List of White Supremacist Candidates Running for Office." Your names give you away. You were not always just white. Once, you were Italian, German, Irish. Once, somebody gave up everything to come here, working so you would have a future. So quickly have you forgotten. Your names give you away. So I have a couple poems in here that are not in the collection. I'm going to read those right now. This poem is called "A Week in a Life." Sunday, I exchange words for inspiration. Monday, I sit and listen to someone recite poetry. Tuesday, I think about class and revolution and the indifferent rich. Wednesday, I read Sylvia Plath and imagine creative ways to kill myself. Thursday, I walk alone in the woods, forecasting a childless future and evening rain. I drink too much on Friday and wake up on Saturday from dreams of stock portfolios, retirement, and other far-off lands that I'll never see. After all, it's all about the rules. Rule 1, do not think about what you might have been. Rule 2, do not think about what you might have been. Rule 3, wear your defiance like a patch on your shoulder. Rule number 4, place your resistance gently on the mantle like a trophy. Rule number 5, no opiates or distractions. The truth hurts. Rule number 6, the truth is beautiful. Rule number 7, never fight unless the odds are stacked against you. Rule 8, never stop fighting. Rule 9, never stop fighting. Thank you. So we live in a peculiar time in many ways, in that when we die, of course, we live on in the memories and the stories of the people that loved and cared about us, and in our accomplishments in some ways. But we also live on in that weird land of the virtual world, where sometimes there's no one around to erase our profiles and our accounts in different virtual places. And so even though we've been gone for a long time, we're still on sites such as Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, etc. And so this poem is about that phenomenon, and it's about, in particular, a friend of ours that we lost about a year or so ago. It's entitled "On Unfriending Dead Friends." This really is a problem of the now. It will be like you were never there, erased from that list of names, many of whom I really don't know. On the surface, you're just another face, a friend since in that democracy of thumbnails. An education, a job, a member of a group, is that all we are? Of course, none of this matters. None of the past matters when we stare at the oblivion before us. But I see that I am not alone. There are 298 other people still your friends. 298 other people facing the same dilemma as I. I think I'll wait until tomorrow. Origami. What if the world was paper? What if we could soar through the skies, could we only catch the next breeze? You and I would wander beneath 1,000 peach trees. Their pink-white blossoms would fill our brains. Later, I would unfold you like a gift, laying your tissue paper skin on that silky green grass, and our flesh would fold like birds in flight. I think it's important to remember something about, as an artist, the nature of art. I personally believe that art is something for everyone. Everyone should be able to enjoy it and create it. But art in all its forms is also, to a degree, a privilege for us to be able to do what we do. And I think as artists, we always have to be grateful for that. We always have to remember that, because not everyone gets to do what we do. And this poem is called "City is Gray." He's reading for whom the bell tolls on the train. City is gray. Getting off. City is gray. Short walk to Reading Terminal, sitting having breakfast amongst the herb trays. City is gray. Hustle, bustle, to market to get the fat pig. Hoodies and suits, city is gray. You don't know why, but the sky lies upon us like a blanket. We are all sitting on steam grates in our own way. City is gray. They want me to be something. They want me to be nothing. He hopes that I have something as he asks. City is gray. You see, it's wealth on top of poverty, on top of alienation, on top of loss of self, on top of indifference, on top of how we missed our play. City is gray. I believe in people warring. I believe disease is coming. I believe that's why I'm running. I believe in people being. I believe in people being. I believe in people being. City is gray if they say so. It's because they've never seen the shades of them all. I see them all. Standing on crowded street corners, I see them all. Bobbing and weaving amongst the winners and the losers, I see them all, showing us what we could have been had we only tried. I see them all, but never, only gray. Flying at night. All you see are the lights. Star fire ground into dust, dimming and sharpening like pencils until they are little but pinpricks, a terrestrial star chart. They are the places we forget, the porch light left on, the street lamp that guards our slumber unceasing. On the highways, they mark the cars, photons passing in and out of phase. The dark spots are where we live, those rows of houses where people dream of leaving their rows of houses. At this height, some things are unrecognizable. Is that a baseball diamond? No, it's just a parking lot, unneeded at 5 a.m. Sooner or later, we are all nothing but empty spaces, the darkness that brightens future light. We are heading west, and the new day creeps towards us like a storm front. Thank you. And I have one more poem that I'm going to share. I just wanted to say again, Larry, thank you for having me, and thank you all for coming tonight and for listening. It's been great. I look forward to hearing your work at the open mic if you're going to be sharing. And I'm definitely looking forward to hearing Mbarek and his work next. So just one thing, my book, you can get it at a couple different places. Sharing the link right now. One such place is on my website. I just put the link in chat. So it's a full-length collection. It's $10 on my website. I charge $2.95 shipping. It's also available at a Novel Idea down on Passyunk Avenue. So if any of you live down there or want to order it through them online, you can. And of course, it is also available through Amazon. So this is called Immersion. You are standing in a summer woods. The sun is straining through the clouds as slowly as coffee through a filter. You are safe and alone. Close your eyes and wait. At first, the forest is silent. A soft breeze flutters your face. Plick. Plick. Rain is falling at the edges of your consciousness, striking leaves. The sound gets louder and the wind picks up, and soon it is all around you. The rain is now penetrating the trees, striking your face, sucking on your eyelids. You are engulfed. For 1 minute, for just 1 minute, you know what it's like to be something, part of something greater, grander than you ever will be. For one moment, you are perfect. Thank you.
So first of all, thank you so much, Larry, for putting this together, and thanks everybody for attending. And Anthony and James, I really enjoyed listening to your poems. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to tie my reading to James and Anthony because they were very inspiring. So I kind of put my poems here so that I can fit each one with either Anthony or James. So first of all, this is my my book. It's City Poems, and as the title says, it is like a travelogue. It's my experience with the different cities that I've visited here in US and abroad. And I focused mostly on the social injustice and racism, inequalities, poverty, and in US, mainly on what America should not be, what we should not have in America as far as homelessness, poverty, everything that we should not have as a society, you know, or at least not to the extent that we see every day. It is shocking to a lot of people who come here. I'm a new American. I've been here for 20 years now. I still consider myself as new. And of course, I'm bringing my new voice, and my new voice comes with a new English, new way of saying the sentences, new way of pronouncing them. I can't help it. This is what first generation immigrants go through, but this is me. So I'm gonna tie this to Anthony and James, then in the end, I'm gonna put myself in and my own experience. So I'll start with tying my first reading to Anthony, and I'm gonna read a poem called The Power of Fiction. So Anthony mentioned art and fiction and creativity. And so this poem was inspired by a reading by Paul Auster that happened in Philadelphia a couple of years ago. In the presence of other shoes, however, they must be more circumspect, for all shoes in the story speak shoe. Paul Auster. That's a quote from his novel. He was reading to us, most of the time to himself. I listened with interest, looking at my shoes. I imagined them talking to each other. What a handsome pair we are, say one shoe to the other. The finest. The shoes noticed me and stopped talking. He went on reading, and the audience listened, not I. I lost interest. I was listening to another conversation now, that of my shoes. The audience giggled and chuckled, not I. I was listening to my shoes chatter. But just think of it. I found myself inside his novel, and it was enough for that evening, for I shall never look at my shoes the same way again. My second poem, I'll tie to James, and it's titled Cages. I'm mixing the poems between some from my book and my new selection. The next poem called Cages. Not far from here, in the desert, when the dust settles, footprints in the sand grow far apart. In cages, as the distant grows, childhood crushed behind bars. Concatenated fragments like offerings made to a deferred dream, cauterized. Children sit facing north. The changing of guards at the end of the day has made the human condition worthless. I'm gonna add one here in between to kind of lessen the tension. It has a note of hope in it. One soul. We sit in this courtyard, two forms, shadow outlines with one soul. This is from Rumi. It's a quote from Rumi, Sitting Together. In the silence of the morning, I opened my arms to the oncoming morning breeze. Shall it ever come, that much longed for moment? Moments come to be, each a hope to each, moments that happily transpire. Just now, in this momentary comfort, the moment just engaged. Just now, in this moment, for once, hope too has aspiration, prevails. Looking forward, I expect nothing more than this moment when I embrace you. Without you, there is no me. This moment of compassion in hardship resounding, hope is so invitingly declared, and it is yours to have if you so desire. What a moment we have gone through. Now, I have a mixed bag of poems here. Some of them speak to me, speak of my exilic feeling and my identity, my looking for, a new self for myself. I'm kind of reshaping myself, as I mentioned, as new American. I'm questioning things, and I'm trying to find my way through all this, new situation that we're in. Sense of absence. This poem starts with Beethoven's Symphony number 5, C minor. Ta-da-da-da, Ta-da-da-da. That's the quote that I have there. The motif is announced, has risen. It is the opening. In the evening, in the empty room next to the bookshelf, a vinyl record turns. The moment takes on a life and fills the void, and the drama intensifies in my heart. The heart aches, beats, repeatedly in the empty room. It pains my heart to remember. It pains my heart to forget. The heart knows no respite as the time stole, and more often than not, by morning, it will still beat. So Larry, you can stop me whenever you want. I have just short poems that I'm gonna go through them. This new poem is called Fragment. I laid the end pieces of the old pine dining room table, graced with a worn patina, and I composed the borders of my puzzle, my story. The colors looked so challenging, but I had invested a lot in the process, and I so badly wanted to finish it. Tired, bored, I needed a break. I caught a distant note coming from the kitchen, and the persistence of memory filled the room. I turned to my wife. Have I lived up to expectations? Is it time to let go and move on? Wearing a look of utter persistence from where she was standing, it was time to think of Dali's clocks. So I collected my thoughts and found myself remembering, but I have promises to keep and miles to go. And I resumed arranging the fragments within the frame I had composed. The coffee ring. The coffee ring is all that's left behind. Coffee marks the wood table, soaks in the texture, rivaled only by the scars framed in the photo album, accounts for the passing days. The coffee ring stands as proof of a life that was. The coffee ring grants both man and thing meaning, as befits a tragedy. This poem here was inspired in Latvia, one of my visits to Latvia, and I was walking downtown. There was a building from the USSR era, those brick buildings, and there was a window there and a plastic flower in that window. So that's where this comes from. The title is The Flower. If I were to die today, I'd bloom once more, to tell account of a past behind this barred window pane, in this somber building, standing silent as the world transformed. Bleak landscape shrouded in loneliness, what remains of an era gone. Around me, the silence so deep for hours at a time. If I were to die today, I'd bloom once more to say, thank you for noticing me. On looking at a sunset painting, in front of the painting, all shrouded in silence, in loneliness, I think he found solace in his sweet time, looking at the painting. Motionless, he smiles ever so slightly, holding her in thought. The golden sun caresses the still blue water surrounding him. The mist of the gentle waves, the smell of salt mixed with her lipstick, the gentle wind, the grass blades carry the smell of spring rain. Her scent, between the sounds, he was submerged in scattered imagery senses, colors, sights, sounds, touch, and sense. What a kaleidoscopic surge. This world, this life, fully lived, what a splurge. Happiness comes in all forms to dissipate the weight of the present. So, Why is everything so sad endlessly? This is a very light, happy poem. This is one of my favorites. I just love this one. It's silly, but I can explain it. It's called The Fly. In the middle of Starbucks, 3 chairs, 3 people, the aroma of fancy coffees, iPads, iPhones, beep, 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 I fly, buzz, 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 calls the fly, jumping from cup to cup relentlessly in an effort to remind the 3 people of its presence. This one is, again, about my own experience. What the suitcase life taught me. The campfire kindles the starry night, sparkle by sparkle. At the sheer silence spreads, I in my solitude like a butterfly, like a wanderer in that remote place, dart toward the flame. The space open to the Sahara night, vast realm of my childhood, so inviting, ambryosa by the fire, shower of sparks, echoes in the evening air. Rejoicing the lonely moon, effulgent over the dune, eroding, reshaping, being reborn by the second, I bore my eyes into the night. Like in an hourglass, I, lying on the sand, grain upon grain, began to shudder, transgressing time. Suddenly, amid the echoes of so many places, dawned on me. The wind began to gust around me, sculpting me, and reminded me that I was not the one I had been the night before, nor would I ever be the same. I was no more, nor were the way things used to be, never the same, never consistent, forever changing. And I'm gonna read one last poem here. It's called The Allegory of My First Independence Day. On a summer day, a white cloud makes its way through the blue sky. On a summer day, I allowed my attention to drift away. A child on his father's shoulders, waving a pair of flags, red, white, and blue, curtains flutter in the windows, adorned picnic tables. The smell of fireworks wafts through the air in a mixed sense of the festivities. Nature continues to blossom. Dahlias and marigold bloom in the yard. The wind chimes gently, jingle in a moment to be reckoned with. People continue to drift away, and I'm listening to the bosses, American land. It is this moment, happiness and sadness, that so affected me. The thought that fills me with such mixed feelings is sufficient to remind me of the condition of being relocated, yet our hope will endure forever. Thank you so much.